give you my name.
Yes.
Frank Dawson. Legal name is Francis, but I go by Frank ever since I was in high school.
Okay.
So, I was born and raised in Minnesota many years ago, and I lived in Minnesota, right, and my mother passed away when I was about 3.5 years old. I went to live with an aunt and uncle on a farm in Minnesota, and attended a country school, walked a mile in the snow and what have you to a one-room schoolhouse. For the first, after my mother passed away, as I said, I lived with an aunt and uncle on a farm, and I attended this school, and finally my dad remarried, and as a result the family got together and moved back into the city in a house that my stepmother owned in St. Paul. And from there I went to high school across the street, to junior ROTC high school, Reserve Officer Training Corps, and graduated from there in 1941. This was just before the war started, and the draft was in effect, but we were not involved in the war at that stage of the game, so I decided to start college and see what would happen. And I went to the University of Minnesota for 2 years, and finally the draft board called me in and said, "You're due to go in the Army." I said, that was in July of 1943. And so I was chosen for a program that the Army had at that time called the Army Specialized Training Corps, program. ASTP was known as. And in that program, they sent you to college, and when you graduated from college, you got a commission as a second lieutenant in the infantry. And so I was sent to the University of Cincinnati, down in Cincinnati, Ohio, and spent a semester there, and then they just excuse me, at that time they discontinued the program because they decided they didn't need any more second lieutenants. And so I went from there to retake basic training in the Corps of Engineers. The first basic training was in Camp Fannin, Texas. That was in the infantry with a bunch of young men about the same age as I was. So after this program broke up, I went to Fort Leonard Wood and got involved in basic training all over again in the Corps of Engineers, only this time with a lot of older guys, because they were starting to draft the older. They were still young men, but they were older than the group that I'd been with originally. It was a different experience. But in any event, I went through there, and we finished that up. And at that time, they didn't quite know what to do with me, I guess, and they sent me to diesel mechanic school in Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. I learned, and I think I spent about 2 or 3 months there, learned how to repair diesel engines, and never saw a diesel engine again after I left there. So, and then I went from there to a replacement depot down in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and waited to see what was going to happen next. And lo and behold, one day they said, "Okay, you're going to go overseas." And I said, "Fine." And it's about time. I'm about ready. It's almost a year. In fact, when I finally got on the boat to go overseas, it was July 23rd of 1944, and that was just a year to the date of the date that I had originally reported to the Army. So I spent a year in the States, going from one camp to another. And when I found out how we were going or what our assignment was, they wouldn't tell us, but I wound up with 2 other young men, and we went to a camp up in Pennsylvania for a few days, and then we went to Brooklyn, New York, spent a week there getting ready to go overseas, and finally got on the boat on the 23rd of July of that would be 44, and we landed in England about 8 days later. Excuse me. And myself and these other 2 gentlemen were, we still didn't know what we were going to do, but there were just the 3 of us, and we were with a group of other small shipments such as that. One was a fellow by the name of Jimmy Cannon. He was a writer, sports writer for the New York Post, and he was with us, but separate. He was going over to write articles. He was a newspaper guy.
Oh, okay.
Write articles for the Stars and Stripes Army newspaper. So we went to a camp in Birmingham, near Birmingham in England, sat there for a while. Then they sent us to another camp down in Salisbury, England, sat there for a while, had an opportunity to go into London for a 24-hour pass, and enjoyed the sights there. Came back and finally got on a boat to go across. Oh, and by the way, when I was in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, the invasion of France took place on June 6th of that year.
Right.
And we knew there was going to be some tough fighting from there on.
Right.
So we got on the boat, and after staying in England from July to December of that year, and we finally got on the boat and still didn't know where we were going. And once we got off the boat, it took 3 days to, on the first train that ran out of Le Havre. This was just after the invasion of France by Americans. D-Day it was called, June 6th of 1945, I guess. So we finally got to a camp just outside of Paris. We sat there, just the 3 of us again, waiting for an assignment. And lo and behold, one day they came in and told my 2 buddies that they were going to go to a school in Paris to learn how to be explosive experts. And I said, "Well, what about me?" They said, "Your name isn't on the order." So, and that was about the time of the Battle of the Bulge, where we had, the Germans had retreated as far as the Rhine River, and they made quite a try for a break into our lines up there, and they were taking everybody who was sitting in the replacement camps, like myself, and giving them a gun and sending them up to the front. because the Germans really had mounted quite a strong offensive. So I figured, well, one of these days I'm going to get a gun and I'll be up there myself.
Right.
But luckily my two buddies were asked when they got up to this school, this training school, this explosive training school, if they knew anybody who might be interested in that type of work. And naturally we had become good friends because we'd been together since June of that year, and here it was November, somewhere in there. And they gave them my name, and the next thing I knew, I was told to go to Paris and attend his school. So we spent 4 weeks there learning how to disarm German mines and explosives of all kinds. I lived at the City University of Paris in a dormitory that was available for us. And you'd think, well, okay, you're going to school in Paris, you've got a pretty nice life, but it wasn't all that great because, first off, we spent all 6 days a week in classes and learning how to disarm these things. And when the Germans left Paris, they took everything with them, including fuel and all the rest of it. So it wasn't very comfortable living. And they took the soap too. So we had to travel from the City University into the place that was where the school was being held, near the Champs-Élysées in Paris. And the travel accommodations, it was a subway part of it, and cold, no heat. Went to the restaurants, cold, no heat.
Wow.
I went to Folies Bergère one night, and it was cold and no heat, but the girls were still up there dancing in their slim costumes. Quite an interesting sight to see, but we were sitting there with overcoats on and hats and trying to stay warm. So anyhow, we were taught what to do with these German equipment, explosive equipment primarily. And after 4 weeks of school, we were then set up to join the units where we were assigned. And these were known as Engineer Technical Intelligence Teams. And they consisted of an officer, a captain, and 3 enlisted men. And we were assigned to a Corps headquarters, so we had pretty good accommodations. We lived with the Corps headquarters people, and our job was to primarily, if the troops up front had found a piece of German explosive equipment they didn't know what to do with, they called us and to come up and disarm it and sort of teach them how to disarm these things, the whole 9 yards of material. It was a rather challenging assignment, and we had 2 jeeps for the 4 of us, and we had pretty much liberty to go. Well, we were asked to go, told to go up here and go over there, but in the meantime, we had a lot of freedom to go on our own also, as the American infantry had passed. Finally, we got up to Cologne on the Rhine River, and the Germans had blown up all the bridges across except one, and that was located at a town called Remagen, Germany. Our troops found that bridge existing, so they crossed it and got to the other side and captured more area over there, and as a result we were able to get in beyond the river there, and they were going on ahead. So after about a week or two, moving up and pushing the Germans back further toward Berlin, we came to a town called Nordhausen, and the interesting thing about that town was that it contained a concentration camp, and that had been liberated by our forward troops about 2 days before we got there. But we had plenty of free time, and we went into this camp, and I brought some pictures along that I'll show you. They're pretty gruesome. Dead bodies all over the place. Wow. But the purpose of this concentration camp that was set up to, excuse me, set up to manufacture bombs that the Germans were using to bomb London. As a matter of fact, when I was in London that one day or night, 24 hours we spent in London, I heard some of these. One type of bomb is called a buzz bomb. It was powered by an internal combustion engine, and the other was a rocket-propelled bomb. These were being built and assembled in an underground mountain, Harz Mountains, which is central Germany, it was east of Frankfurt and northwest of Munich, and dug into the mountains. And they had two camps there. One camp was for the workers, and these were mostly Jewish people and other people that the Germans didn't like, one kind or another, Romanians, Polish, you name it, they had them. And they were living in this one camp, which we never got to see because when our people, those were the workers, and they were in pretty good condition. But they weren't fed too well. And as a result, when they could no longer work in the underground factory assembling these bombs, they were sent to the second camp. And the second camp was where they ultimately died. When we got there, that camp, as I mentioned, was liberated about 2 days before we got there. But there were anywhere from 800 to 1,000 bodies, dead people, in that camp. And as you